When it comes to what your family eats and drinks, you know your choices matter. You're the expert because you know what fits your life. And getting it right starts with good information. That's why America's beverage companies are sharing more information about our ingredients at goodtoknowfacts.org. No spin, no judgments, just the facts straight from the experts for more than 140 beverage ingredients. Visit goodtoknowfacts.org.
Okay, let me get this straight. Just going up to people randomly and saying, hey, what do you do for a living? To me, you were the pioneer. What led you to being brave enough to do that? Because going up to someone's car when they're in traffic, that could be a scary thing in this world, man.
It was really scary. And I won't lie to you, like I still sometimes get a little nervous, even though I've done it about 10,000 times to people.
Getting yelled at, people getting mad, slamming the door in your face. You know, no one wants to talk to me, but you stuck to it. And, you know, here we are.
It definitely stings, you know, like when somebody tells you to get out of their face, you don't want to go out the next day and go film again because it's just pure rejection. At the beginning, though, in Dallas, I actually got banned for 5 years from the mall that I was originally filming at. About 2 or 3 weeks in, I almost got arrested. My ban is still live right now. It expires in about a month, so maybe I'll have to pay them a visit. But yeah, like I almost got arrested.
All right, everybody, I got Daniel Mack with me. He goes by It's Daniel Mack. This individual has done something so brave. His journey started right around COVID, going up to people and saying, hey, that's a great car, man. What do you do for a living? And he's absolutely exploded. So we're going to dive into the creator side today and listen to his journey. And he's going to give us a peek behind the curtain on how he built what he built. And for those creators out there, this is an episode that you do not want to miss, because you're going to get the chance to hear from somebody who's built something so incredible. Daniel Mack, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Dude, I'm jacked, man. Long time coming, bro. Me and Val have been talking about you for months, and I've always like, it's a yes. It's a yes. And then finally, we linked our schedules up, and here we are, man. So I appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me. Let's do it.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Dude, so, okay, let me get this straight, right? We see a lot of people doing on the street stuff, you know, just going up to people randomly and saying, hey, that's a really cool whatchamacallit. What do you do for a living? But to me, you were the pioneer. What led you to being brave enough to do that? Because going up to someone's car when they're in traffic, that could be a scary thing in this world, man. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. Sometimes I think back and I wonder how I got the courage to first start walking up to people. I had never posted any content before ever. Like my first video on TikTok, it was August of 2020 during COVID, was me walking up to somebody and saying like, hey, it was an Audi R8 in Dallas. And you're right. Nobody had done that on TikTok before. I won't lie and say that like no one had created any form of asking people how they got wealthy, because that's been around forever in some way or another. Sure. But I definitely, I guess, pioneered more of the short form version of it. And it was really scary. And I won't lie to you, like I still sometimes get a little nervous, even though I've done it about 10,000 times to people. But I think it was a bridge of both me being curious about how people get wealthy and then also just a love for cars. I was fresh out of school. I had just moved to Dallas. I'd never seen Ferraris before ever in my whole life. And I thought at 21 years old, like, how do I get a car like this one day? And it may be something else for other people. Maybe it's a watch or, you know, or knowledge or, you know, anything like that. But I just thought like, hey, like, what if I just asked it straight from the horse's mouth? And it was scary. And people were very confused at the time, too, because the genre hadn't been, you know, going up to people on the street wasn't really a thing yet. So a lot of the time at the beginning, people were just confused and thought it was kind of funny. But back then, people also used to get a lot more upset or confused or, you know, yell at me and stuff like that. So it was a learning curve. And it's kind of like if you get the door slammed in your face enough, you get numb to it a little bit and you gain more courage. But it was a mix of me being crazy and adventurous and young and hungry. And my first video ended up getting like 30 million views. So the perfect concoction of just a new untapped kind of market, essentially.
Unbelievable, man. And it's crazy because that was a time where people were just chilling in their homes. And that's really when TikTok exploded, was in the middle of that lockdown, the pandemic. You know, what I really love too, you touched on something that I think is very valuable to really dive into, right? Getting yelled at, people getting mad, slamming the door in your face. Because people will look, at your social media platforms, your YouTube, your Instagram, your TikTok, and be like, this is easy for him. But dive deeper into the moments of rejection, because a lot of times people see that and be like, all right, abandon ship, this isn't going to work. No one wants to talk to me, but you stuck to it. And, here we are.
Yeah, I've definitely posted some compilations of people getting angry with me. Those actually are some of my best videos. It shows people that I really do run up on the street and go up to random people. But yeah, it definitely stings. When somebody tells you to get out of their face, it burns, and you don't want to go out the next day and go film again because it's just pure rejection. I would say now I've kind of created like a code of ethics for myself as far as who I'm walking up to and where I'm walking up to them. So somebody's window's up, I don't want to bother them. But if they got their window down, they're in a Ferrari, they're on Rodeo Drive in Los Angeles or something like that, I will run up to them because they're in an area where they're kind of wanting the attention and whatnot. At the beginning, though, in Dallas, there was no Rodeo Drive or anything like that. I actually got banned for 5 years from the mall that I was originally filming at. About 2 or 3 weeks in, I almost got arrested. My ban is still live right now. It expires in about a month, so maybe I'll have to pay them a visit. But I almost got arrested, and they are acting like they were going to arrest me and that I was trespassing, but I had never been warned yet. So there were some hurdles for sure, and I've gotten some weird interactions with people, and things have gotten pretty heated. So it's every single time. You never know what you're going to get when you walk up to a random person.
Well, that's a good point, right? Your band is, almost up, and going back to it now, I think people would recognize you, right? But then you were just some younger kid, putting a camera and a microphone in front of people's faces. And, again, man, it definitely isn't an offense you should be arrested for. But I can imagine how those early moments can give you a sense of resistance, right? But there's true determination, Daniel, in being able to say, you know what, I'm still going to go and do this tomorrow, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I was working 9 to 5 in finance at the time. And a lot of people think that, I will say at the beginning, my story was definitely luck because I had one video, it got shown to 3 people or something because I had 0 followers, and then it got shown to more people and it snowballed. So, even the very first people that viewed the video, if they didn't like it, then, I would have not had that first video do well. But then after it did well, after work, I'd clock out at 5 p.m. for my job. I'd drive to this spot before I got banned. I'd, work until the sun went down, go home, edit the content, do my original brand deals, pretty much wear 9 or 10 hats at once, and then wake up, do my 9 to 5, do the same thing. And then on the weekends, I'd fly to LA, and I was filming from 10 a.m. on Rodeo Drive until 7 p.m. Friday. And then Saturday, I didn't have the money for a camera person or editor and no one to travel with me. I was staying in some very sketchy hotels because I couldn't afford it. I was 21 years old. I had $10 in my bank account.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Listening to this podcast? Smart move. Being financially savvy? Smart move. Another smart move? Having State Farm help you create a competitive price when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
This episode is brought to you by eBay. Buying parts for your car? You'll know that will it work feeling. But on eBay, buying parts is different. eBay's free returns means if it doesn't fit, or if it isn't what you expected, you just print a label, drop it off, and get your refund fast. No haggling, no stress, and at least 30 days to return any eligible item. Millions of parts, free returns. eBay. Things people love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
So I did that week after week after week. Eventually, I ended up moving to LA because it was cheaper to, live here rather than getting a rental car and doing that on the weekends. And then I quit my job, which was scary. And all these things at the beginning where I didn't have the bankroll to make it easy. And I was working 120 hours. Every second I was awake, I was doing something to try and balance both these jobs. So it was luck at the beginning. And then I essentially just kind of positioned myself in the right spots and worked hard enough to be able to lift myself up and get a team and then get an agency and all this stuff. But it took years and years. So uh, not luck eventually, that's for sure.
No, it's compelling though, right? Because I can listen to your story. So I started my show in 2021 and I started it in my vehicle, right? It was just an iPhone. I didn't have money to put towards production, right? And for a long period of time, I filmed my show after my car inside my house. And then I started getting out, right? And then had a production team. And then I up leveled to a better production team. And now I have an all-star team and I have Val, I have partners now. And this thing has grown in so many different ways. But at the very beginning, man, I can really relate to having to wear all the hats because I was also a husband and a father of 3, right? And I was also in corporate America in medical device sales. So I had to wear those 2 hats for a very long period of time until now. This is the only thing I do. And I'm living this dream every day. And the one thing that always bothers me, and it probably should, and you hear people all the time, well, man, it must be nice to be able to do that. I'm like, nice. I'm like, you don't understand the amount of fear, anxiety of leaving a successful corporate career in sales, turn your back on all this money, the benefits, to double down on a dream. I think like they make fun of people like us. Like, what are these people doing? Like, oh, he's going to be a podcaster. I made a joke the other day. It was probably like one of the most douchey things to do, quit a corporate career and be a podcaster. Right. But I had faith. I had faith to know that this was my purpose. This is what I was preparing for my whole life. And in sales, right. And you might be able to relate to this and have a comment on it, but all the experience in sales and having to talk to, or getting the opportunity to talk to a bunch of different types of people really helped me in crafting conversations and becoming a good host.
Yeah. I mean, I talk to people every day from various walks of life with various different professions. And I would say that doing all that, I mean, like I said, I think I've interviewed probably about 10,000 people, maybe more, maybe a little less, all with various interesting stories. And that has definitely helped me be a better communicator. I think, like you're saying with sales, it's, people that go door to door. I have people that, I've started their business as like roofers or doing various occupations where they're, getting rejected and talking to people or closing a deal and trying to become personal with people. And that's like one of the most valuable things ever, I think, being a good communicator. And certainly what I've done has allowed me, aside from just the various cool places that I've been able to travel and cool places that I've been able to be positioned in, just having those daily interactions with people is invaluable for just the way that I operate in my life and whatnot. And yeah, it was very scary jumping ship. I was only 21. You say that you jump ship. I'm sure you were making more money than me for sure. So it's probably even more scary, and you have children and all that. So I can't even imagine having all those pressures as well, and then deciding to quit something that's very successful for you and jump into a dream. I did the same thing on a lower scale just because I was just starting in my career. But it's weird because at the time you're kind of conditioned your whole life to think that like the 9 to 5 and like working for someone else is what you should do. Like even my parents, they're older and, God bless them. Like they're being reasonable, in a lot of ways, because they're saying like, hey, like you have this job in finance. I was going to become a financial advisor. I was getting my brokerage licenses. Like I was on the right path. I did everything right in my life to get to that spot. So why would I completely destroy it by quitting a job that, is cushy and go off to go do TikToks, especially when TikTok was at its infancy. It sounds crazy in hindsight, but a lot of people do that and fail. And I even was a little bit conservative with how long I took to quit my job. I had millions of followers at the time, but it all happened so fast. Now it's laughable because, I'm 21 years old. I have no kids. I have no girlfriend. I could move to a new city easily, and I would have kicked myself if I was like 40 or 50 and didn't make that jump. But at the time, when it's your whole world, it doesn't seem easy. And like I said, everything's easier in hindsight to look back on. So it was a wild journey, and it was tough at the beginning for sure. You don't want to act like you don't want to essentially seem stupid, and you moved out to LA and it wasn't going to work out. What an idiot, quit his job. But that's how you make the most money. I've learned is by starting your own business and Yeah.
100%, man. And I want to challenge you really quickly, not in the classic sense, but I think it's all relative. Yes, I had, a wife and 3 children. Yes, I had a corporate career, but you also took a big gamble at the very beginning when you didn't have much going on, right? As far as a family and you were just getting going. That's also very scary, Daniel. That one is not more scarier than the other because it's all relative, man. And, a lot of people thought what I did was reckless, but I'm blessed because I have an amazing wife who supported me, not financially, but, with just actual support and say, hey, listen, I believe in you. I know you'll do the right thing, but she goes, you're going to have to tighten up a little bit because it's going to be hard for a while. And she was right. It was very hard for a very long period of time, but we're just now starting to hit this hockey stick to where all of a sudden, I'm starting to feel, she's starting to feel like, whew, guessed right, man. And then also, the audience is telling me that I guessed right. I mean, we have to go with our passions in this world. Otherwise, the cars, the houses, money doesn't mean anything if you don't enjoy truly and have a passion for what you're doing. And that may fall on deaf ears, because there'll be people out there that didn't take those opportunities like, well, I hate what I'm doing right now, but I'm making a lot of money, and they may feel trapped, right? So again, major props to you. That is a very hard thing to do at a young age. It's almost as scarier because, you have this, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say naive. It's not naive, but it's like, I don't have anything right now. If I fail, it's on me only. I don't have anybody else to impact. But at the same time, there's no lesser risk that you took than I took.
Yeah. I guess I can see what you mean in a lot of ways as far as having nothing, because, if your first big job out of school or whatever, you can compare it to literally anything. If say you just graduated high school or you had a great opportunity and you're 19 or it doesn't really matter. But yeah, if that's all you have, it is kind of like your whole world at the time. So if you fail there, everyone just looks at you, or at least you perceive that everyone would look at you and go, wow, you really screwed up the very start of your life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was scary. It was very scary.
I mean, but you doubled down on it. You moved, you continue to pour into your platform and your craft, and dude, it's changed your life.
It definitely changed my life. Yeah. Yeah. It's just the amount of absurd people I've been able to meet. Like sometimes I'll do compilations of like just some of these people and just being in the room with just like interesting people. Like I would just play beer pong with Mark Zuckerberg last week at a Meta event.
Damn it, you stole my thunder. I was going to bring that up, dude. Damn you. Damn you.
Yeah, like that's with the third richest man in the world. Like that's a weird thing to do. And eventually I was sending my family, like at the beginning, I would tell my family, like, I'm doing this crazy thing. Like I'm going to go watch Richard Branson go lift off in a rocket for a brand deal and get paid to do it. And like that was one of my first big brand deals. And that at the time to my family was like, oh my goodness. And it is crazy. But they started to get a little bit numb to some of the crazy stuff I was doing because like, especially in 2020, it was the kind of the new frontier of social media, and all the platforms were basically throwing out a lot of money at a lot of different things. Like Facebook Reels was just starting and they were giving incentive bonuses, and Snapchat was pumping out money, and everyone was kind of trying to compete with each other. And all these brands were just finally starting to get it because a lot of them had this kind of old mentality of like television marketing where people can, they can't skip away from an ad. So it was the new frontier, and there was a lot of educating to do. But long story short, like there was even, I wouldn't say crazy opportunities because I'm doing crazy stuff now, but it all went from like 0 to $1 million in like 6 months for me. And that was just like a crazy period. And I'm glad that I had good friends around me and good people that, didn't, make me change who I was, and they kept me real. And if I was acting like a LA douchebag, my family would probably fly out and beat me with like a hammer. So I'm thankful that I had a good support base. I have a twin brother too. And if I was acting like kind of like an LA snob, I'm sure he would kill me. So yeah.
Well, no, that's important, man, because, I too, like my wife told me when I started this thing, she goes, hey, look, there's going to be a time where you have to really evaluate where you're at. And she goes, I need you to always be yourself. The moment you're not yourself, you got to reevaluate it. And I always stuck to and still stick to who I am. I don't say things I don't mean. I don't say things just to get a rise out of people or clickbait. I'm really authentically me. And it's nice to hear, just like, look, man, I'm having this conversation with you now. I know people who know you, and then I've watched you on camera, the same dude. That to me is a secret sauce that you can never lose, ever.
Yeah,
it mean something. Yeah.
I agree 100%. I think it's hard sometimes to find people that are genuinely who they are on camera and off camera. I'd say in some ways, for some genres of short form content, some of the people that I thought would be terrible, off camera, like, I don't know, I won't throw out anyone in particular, but like people that do like dancing challenges and stuff like that. I think it's really easy to want to hate on them and think that they're a certain way. I'll bring it to the other end, essentially, where you have an impression of them because of how they act on camera. Not like it's something that's negative, but just who you think that they might be. And I've been shocked in a lot of ways where I've learned that a lot of people that I thought I wouldn't like just because of how I might perceive that they may act completely different. And sometimes it can be on the opposite end. So it is really hard to find in short form media specifically. And this is something that where a lot of short form creators struggle is it's hard to get yourself out genuinely to your audience. And it's hard for them to actually know who you are as a person. So it takes a lot of years, especially in the short form, kind of genre, to connect with your audience and get them to build that trust. Because you just don't have the amount of time on camera to kind of portray who you are. So it depends on the style of videos that you're shooting. Like I personally try to do a lot of videos at least once a month or twice a month where I kind of go out of my box and I talk to the camera directly, like podcast style, on just various topics like how people get wealthy or what I've learned or just like my journey and stuff like that. And that's been really important, but it's hard to build that trust. And on the internet, it's hard to know who's really telling the truth.
It's interesting you say that because you're talking about in a short form context, right? To where they don't have a lot of you. It's quick hits, right? I've noticed on my end, like I'm listening to your story. You're like, yeah, I went from 0 to 1 million, like in a matter of months. I'm like, man, I'm stuck at 200 on Instagram, right? Because most of my stuff is long form, right? Whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and then we post clips on the show. And there's clips that I think, okay, with the guest, maybe the content of the conversation, like this is going to fly, and then it doesn't. So it's almost like it begs this question of what are they looking for? What is YouTube? What is Spotify? Instagram, and what is Facebook and TikTok really looking for to show your video to people? I think people really want to know that.
It really is platform dependent. I think, and Gary Vee talks about this a little bit. I don't know specifically the way to which there needs to be massive differences between the way that you edit content if we want to get technical. I know for a fact, though, that you need to tailor your content to each platform, at least in some ways specifically. Like on YouTube, for example.
So you're about to make a trade based on a friend's text. But which you do you listen to? Is it, we could buy a house in Tulum? Get optioning those options. We could lose everything. Or let's do a little research. Get your head in the trade and make the investment decision that's right for you. Learn more at finra.org/trade smart.
When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
Example, I think SEO is really, really important in the way that you position your titling on short form videos because people will still use the search bar on YouTube for shorts when they're searching a particular topic. So if I make a caption, for example, say I interview, I don't know, the founder of Shark Tank investor, and he tells me his his best Shark Tank pick, for example, or like the Shark Tank pick that made him the most money. On YouTube, for SEO, I would caption that something like Shark Tank creator shares his most profitable investment. But on TikTok and Instagram, because people are swiping in feed and they're not typing that in the search bar, I would make the caption something that encourages maybe the viewer to watch the full video, or to something that's funny or something that's relatable or gets people to comment. And I think that's just one specific example of how platforms are used differently. I think you need to really pay attention to the way that viewers are consuming the media. There's a lot of like other smaller like technical things that I use personally. Like I use text on screen a lot more. I think people, reading and kind of getting a general vibe for what the video is going to be about, especially in the first second when they're looking at it, giving them like a Spark Notes on the top, like your Shark Tank investor shares his top secret. Like these are some more technical things, which I think are very important. I think a lot of the times when people ask about how to get content to perform well, they'll give a lot more vague general answers. But I think you need to think about the technical aspects of how each platform operates specifically. And that should be something that is kind of at the forefront of how you operate on platforms. So yeah, that's just one example that I have. I think trying different lengths as well on different platforms is another thing that's very specific. Like I know that TikTok right now is currently valuing longer videos more. Things kind of like shifted. It was like a pendulum where TikTok took all the short form, all the long form watchers at the very beginning, and they wanted really short little bite-sized snippets. But then viewers started to get very fatigued in the last year and a half or so, and didn't want to have to keep swiping, especially with more ads popping up and stuff like that, because it wasn't worth their time to sit through 3 TikTok shop ads. Like I'll be on my feed and it'll be like TikTok shop ad, regular ad, 2-second video, and then now I have to watch a new ad. And they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit in that aspect, because now people were like, okay, I just want to go back to YouTube and watch something longer. So that's another example of tailoring your lengths on different platforms. Now TikTok is favoring minute plus content. So you need to be savvy and essentially try things out in different ways, and basically not be locked into a certain way of posting, because all these things are very fluid with social media and the way that the platforms reward different things. So yeah, it's kind of my tidbits.
Yeah, that's
a little bit on that.
It's interesting. That's interesting because, what we do is we, do a show and we'll make clips like for this, right? And then the caption will be one way on Instagram, but then YouTube is different. It's titled differently. So my team does a great job of that. I think, and this is maybe a story that I'm telling myself, right? But my content isn't super sexy in a sense that I'm not throwing Lambos in there. I'm not throwing different types of vehicles in there. It's me and a guest. So I think, that is a little bit harder for me to kind of get more legs in my content. But again, it could just be a story I'm telling myself, and it could just be too early in my journey to tell.
Yeah, I think it really, really depends on varying the types of things that you're going to be clipping. How often are you posting these clips? Is it like, do you post them like several times a day, or do you kind of just get like a couple highlights from your podcast, like 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Or
so great question, man. What we're doing right now is we're posting 1 clip a day. Sometimes we'll double up. If I have some press, I'll do a graphic, and that'll be a variation of content to break up the grid, like we did an Us Weekly piece. So, I posted that a couple days ago. But the podcast, like we'll have a Monday, Tuesday clip, and then Wednesday's a slide post based on what I took away from the episode. So slide with the points, and then I'll do the video. Then it'll be episode live now. Go check it out. And then, we have another one. Then we'll do like another clip on Thursday, and then Friday, a new show drops. So we do drops on Monday and Friday now. So then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are from that Friday episode. And then Monday, we start again with a new guest. So that's kind of like the cadence right now, but there's not a day that goes by that we are not posting content. But just we had this conversation spurred by this amazing Daniel Mack guest today. I said, guys, like, because watching your stuff with them, I'm like, we got to find our niche. We got to find our way to do something like this that's on brand, that brings a different dimension to what we do, so we can add it into the podcast clips and all the other things that we're doing, because the one thing that I'm noticing right now, I feel like we've earned the right to double post. I feel like we've earned the right to do 2 things a day. And some days, like, I'd be okay with doing 3 and getting more content out there. But what are your thoughts on multiple posts per day?
Hey, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our Powered By sponsor. We're proud to announce a partnership between White Sands Treatment Centers and the Determined Society. With multiple locations across Florida, White Sands provides luxury, top-rated addiction treatment, from medical detox and inpatient care to outpatient support and long-term aftercare. Their resort-style campuses, expert clinicians, and holistic programs create real, lasting recovery. Together, we're committed to bringing hope, resources, and healing to those who need it most. White Sands Treatment Centers.
I think for me personally, I don't want to oversaturate when the quality of the content isn't up to par, because I do think just the way algorithms work, like if you are shown a video, odds are, well, it depends on how big of a fan you are, really. So for the general person out there, if you're shown one video and you're not a very, very consistent watcher, you may not be shown that second video just because they don't want to overload on content. But if it's good content, they will show both those videos. So sometimes, for example, like if I'm doing an advertisement with the brand and I want it to do well because it's an advertisement, I won't double up on posts that day, even if I have another piece of good content, because I don't want it to suck the views potentially away from that piece of content. However, if it's not an advertisement situation and I'm not worried about that, I don't see any problems with posting multiple times a day. I've actually started doing it more on my end as well. At the very, very beginning of my account, I posted every 3 or 4 days in 2020 because simply I could not find enough Ferraris in Dallas. There literally wasn't enough. So that was, that was a roadblock there. But then I started being a lot more selective. And, once I moved to LA, there was all the cars there and all the footage, but I would go to Rodeo Drive. I'd be there for like 7 hours. I'd film 30 videos and I'd only post 3 of them probably. And then I would be a lot more cautious about posting. I've kind of loosened up on that a little bit more though recently. I haven't really noticed. It's like time of day for me. I think it really depends on your demographics, but for me personally, I don't notice too much of a shift, but I think you have to be wary about making sure that the content is still up to par, or your viewers are going to get fatigued by it. And then the algorithm is going to go like, hey, they didn't engage with these 2 in a row. Now it's not show them the third one. So I think it's nuanced, and I don't think it applies for everyone in one box, but I would say I don't think I've seen any problem with double posting in a day. I've had some of my best back-to-back videos when it's timely, and that used to be something that I was afraid of. I'll give you a good example. Like every year up in California, Northern California, there's an event called Car Week. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but it's like the car mecca for everyone in the world to show up to, and lots of new cars get unveiled in the same day. And this year I had a Bugatti that got unveiled. It was a one-of-one $30 million car or something like that. And then I had basically a lot of new models get unveiled. And these unveil videos, I posted 3 or 4 back to back, hour by hour, and one got like 20 million views. The next one got 10 million views. So if it's good content right there, they weren't pulling from each other. I think they were just being shown to both people. And I used to be kind of afraid to do something like that, but then I would hinder myself because that video only has a short shelf life because it's new information. So I think it all depends on, the shelf life, how good it is. And I wouldn't be afraid of double posting. I don't think there's a one size fits all solution. So if you have great content one week with a guest, and you have 8 banger clips, I would post 2 a day, whatever. Yeah. I don't think it matters.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because, recently, the new show Black Rabbit on Netflix, right? With Jude Law, Jason Bateman, my cousin Chris Coy is in that. He was Babbitt. And
oh, wow. Okay.
We launched, we dropped that on Monday, and the clip did really good, like really good. It's greatly produced by my team, a ton of the B-roll. It's like a highly propulsive show, but also a very propulsive clip. And it did great. I mean, it did so well, right? And to your point, like, I think it's all about a matter of timing and what is timely, right? So for me, if I would have waited one more day to post that clip, it might not have went well. It was 3 days after the show dropped, right? And now the world, by that time, it was number one in the world on Netflix and shows, right? So, SEO wise on YouTube, it's starting to pick up, right? And the listens on Spotify and Apple are starting to pick up. And then, the clip on social media. But you did something, that you have a lot of passion for, but also I think the world loves cars. So you're able to take your passion and put it in people's faces as something that they love. And I think that's a big component of it because you're serving the people, right? And the algorithm sees that. It's like, okay, Daniel Mack's posting things that people want to see because people are super passionate about these luxury and exotic vehicles.
Yeah. I think a lot of what made me successful at the start as well was I'll say the car scene. I love the car scene. And one problem with the car scene though, however, is there's a lot of like gatekeeping involved, and it's a very tight community where when people know stuff, they can be pretty hostile if you don't know, everything about it. It's I'm looking for the words here, but if you don't know what you're talking about, people will get very upset. And also people don't want to explain more simple things about cars for people that are just starting to get into it. And I've always been a car guy, but I think what I did at the beginning that was good was I didn't focus on, I kept it a lot more light for basically the average viewer. And then there's deep dives that I do now that are a lot more, I guess, advanced, if you want to say that. It sounds kind of nerdy coming from a car guy, but things are, where I'm talking about engine type or, liters or whatever, torque and all that. But I think democratizing knowledge, especially at the very beginning of an account, and in general, just serving your audience that's stepping into something that they don't fully understand, is really, really important for an account because, the car scene can be a bit aggressive and people will comment and say you get one little word wrong or number wrong, or people ask questions. A good example of like if I'm talking about the wheels on a car versus the rims, people use those words interchangeably, and like they're in tires and just there's all these little things. And basically, I think where I found success was making things a lot more accessible for the average viewer and essentially allowing them to step in the window of people that are wealthy in a way that was unintimidating, in a way that where they, especially during COVID, they're trapped at home and they're not able to be blessed enough to be in a place where they could maybe go out. Like I was in Texas and there were no events happening nationwide. No one could have even kind of copied my idea if they wanted to. But luckily I was in an area where there were events happening. So I think giving people access is a big thing. And that starts from even explaining things in ways that maybe your viewers that aren't as familiar with the topic will understand and be able to connect. And also people that will be able to connect. So, yeah.
Well, and I think it's also super digestible too, right? So when you go up to somebody, hey, that's an awesome car. What do you do for a living? And then you get their answer. But also the cool thing is you flash the type of the car and the sticker value on the car. So it gives people, continued interaction, or what's the word I'm looking for, man? It's just, it's engaging because you can say, oh, okay, this car's this much. And what does this person do? Okay. So to me, and then mixing in the fact that, you've got to do pieces with Travis Scott, like I said, Mark Zuckerberg, and there's a lot of people that you've spoken to that are familiar faces. And because people ask me this all the time, what is it like interviewing Jay Leno and some of these big names? So I'm going to ask you the same thing. What is it like for you to be able to be in front of a Mark Zuckerberg, a Travis Scott, and some of the other amazing individuals that you've gotten to do some collabs with?
It's definitely inspiring. And at the beginning, it was very intimidating. My first big video ever was with Jason Derulo at a gas station in Los Angeles. He was pumping his gas in Tarzana. And then we ultimately ended up filming a second one. And I was able to really sit down with him in Saudi Arabia, which, of all places, for Formula One.
It's
and
random.
It's super random. We had made this connection, and then he invited me backstage, and like, a lot of these people are just so interesting. And it's like, for example, Jason Derulo, his music career is not what it used to be, but yet he's still, I think, in the top 10 or so on TikTok. So like, how is that possible? Like, what is he doing right? And he really like cornered the creator economy way before people even knew what that word was and how to market yourself. And basically just being able to like sit down with people that are this interesting. Like, you may view them as just like, it's easy to write people off as like, oh, they're just a pop star or whatnot. But like, if you look at their numbers, like they're doing something right. And a lot of these people that I've met, like it was very intimidating at the beginning because I had never met anyone famous before, you know, at all. And I think people have a lot of preconceived notions about wealthy people, thinking that they'll be super standoffish, but the most part, they're pretty normal individuals. Like, Mark Zuckerberg is very normal, and I've met him twice, and just a cool guy. I mean, obviously, there's, you know, I'm not going to say that he's exactly like us. He's the third richest man in the world. He's a billionaire, but
Sure.
I think just interacting with people that are that wealthy, like you need to step back and it's cliche, but they really are just like regular people in the way that they interact. And I think people put famous people up on a pedestal and want them to act certain ways, but like I've just found that the majority of them just kind of act like normal people, honestly. It's funny you mentioned Jay Leno too. I just saw him driving in Rodeo yesterday, and he was in a yellow Corvette, and I was waving at him. He's one of the nicest guys in the world too. I've interviewed him, and I ran up to him at a Carbs and Coffee event, unplanned, and I asked him what he did for a living, and he chatted my ear off for like 30 minutes. Like he's the nicest guy ever. Like probably the nicest car guy. He's the king of cars, I'd say. So I mean, I'd just say like with meeting famous people and in general, I wouldn't be afraid to walk up to them and just chat with them. I think there's definitely ways to go up to people and interact with them that are normal. Like people will just whip out their camera with flash at like 2 a.m. at a club and put it on me without asking permission. I think it's kind of a taste of my own medicine in a lot of ways because I run up to people. But I think there's a time and place and there's environments and the way that you do it makes, of course, all the difference. But yeah, you know, I think all these people, it is very scary chatting with them at the beginning, but I've gotten a lot better at interacting with people and just finding the right questions to ask them and just knowing that they're human at the end of the day and they're going to be normal. So I wouldn't freak out at all if you're meeting anyone famous.
Dude, that's such a great takeaway, man, because I remember when I first started talking to bigger names, I remember getting so nervous, man. I mean, what's it going to be like? Are they going to be nice? What I found is the more famous they are, the nicer they are. Like I have found people that, you know, like Jay Leno, like I remember sitting there in his, you know, Jay Leno's garage before the interview, just shaking inside, man. I mean, it was nerve wracking, but as the interview went on, I just saw it was just two dudes talking, man. And it's such a breath of fresh air. So I always tell people, these celebrities, they are human beings and they want to be treated as such. They don't want you to fanboy or fangirl them. They want to have great conversation with you. They want to feel respected. They want to feel acknowledged, but at the same time, they're just really good at their jobs. They have beating hearts, they have feelings, and the conversations could be so great. And one of the biggest things that I enjoy about having the bigger names on is what they say to their publicist afterwards about me. I love getting these emails or text messages. They really enjoyed today. You're a true professional. Thank you. Let's collab more in the future. Like that to me is the win. You know, I love putting it out there so people can watch it and learn about them. But, you know, for me, it was just like it's a great measuring stick to see, am I on the right track? Was I missing anything in this? And how can I get better?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned too, being nervous before doing a podcast, because I remember you gave me a flashback to my first podcast I ever did. It was just with a friend that I had interviewed that was in a Ferrari, who's a roofer. His name's Nick Royer. I love him. He's like my mentor at the beginning. And I met him by just running up to him and asking what he does. And he invites me on his podcast, which wasn't a massive podcast by any sorts, but it was in a studio. And I was literally shaking when they said action. Like, it's funny in hindsight now, because obviously, I mean, and I still get nervous too, but like, I was physically shaking. I was like, I need to like lock in right now and like figure out how I'm going to not look like I'm shaking on camera here, which made me shake even more. So the practice of interacting with people, and this is just a couple of weeks in, like, yeah, famous or not, getting behind the camera or just chatting with people in general can be really intimidating, like to a level where you don't even really realize it when there's like lights and cameras and stuff like that. And it gets really amplified with famous people as well. So yeah, those first couple times were horrifying, but yeah, I guess it's easy for people to maybe listen and be like, yeah, like celebrities are normal people and whatnot. Like, and I've heard that before, but like, once you really like truly understand that and you interact with them more and more, especially on a higher level, all the nerves go away. Like you're saying, it really becomes just like, this is a regular guy that's just chatting, like regular guy or gal. And like, that's it. So yeah, you just give me a flashback. And I was like, that is
dude, I
funny
love that, man.
Yeah.
I love that. That's some real
terrifying
shit, dude. It is terrifying. The thing that's always helped me though, is if I'm speaking to an actor or an actress or a best-selling author, right, is to actually freaking prepare and know what the hell it's about, right? So I'll get the opportunity to screen movies before they're out. I'll get the opportunity to read books before they're published. And so for me, what I do to take away the nerves is dive in hard and be ultra prepared for it. Read the first 100 pages of the book if I can. Watch the screening and have actual conversation points based on their craft. And I always feel that's well received.
That is definitely great advice. Yeah, especially if you're going to be interviewing someone as well or showing up to something that you have no idea about. I mean, I think there's definitely been times where I've learned my lesson on showing up to a shoot earlier in my career, especially if I'm doing like a brand deal or something like that. And if I don't entirely know who I'm working with or pretty much everything about them, that is the easiest way at the very, very start to, first of all, appear ingenuine to the person. And second of all, be just not prepared and also just not maximize doing the best possible video or best possible shoot or best shoot with a product or something like that. Yeah, I think that's great advice. I agree 100%.
You know, it's great because this is what I want the audience to really listen on. It's about process, right? No matter what you do, you're a creator. I'm a creator. We're two different types of creators, but our job is to fall deep into our process and be strategic and to know about what we're about to do. And it's hard because, you know, in my work, I work with a vast variety of creatives, right? Whether it's an actor, of a commentator, a NFL football player, you know, it just doesn't matter what it is. It's like my mind is consistently being stretched and molded. And I just feel like it's like this bunch of clay that's being shaped constantly, man, because it's made me so much more dynamic. I have a bigger range now.
Yeah, you must interview just the widest array of different I mean, I guess me and you kind of have similar jobs in some way where, yeah, we get a chat with some of the most interesting people in the world. Mine is, I guess, a bit more, sometimes I'm limited to a light, like a literal, like stop, like a light for 45 seconds or so. But I think nonetheless, it's still very similar. You know, that's my on camera presence. But if I'm, you know, at an event or whatnot, I'm still meeting all these crazy people and chatting with them in more deep conversations. And yeah, it really changes your perspective. And I know earlier before we started this recording, we were chatting about kind of the two different types of people I think exist out there. And that was people that are open-minded and willing to dive into the unknown and, you know, explore new ideas, and people that aren't. And I think that translates into a lot of how people live their lives, and essentially being open-minded to talk to people that you may disagree with or gain a new perspective and actually adopt what they're talking about. I think that's the key that I've noticed in my videos with some of the most successful people is they'll surround themselves or expose themselves to people that are better at specific things than they are. And they'll actually use the knowledge that they find or at least absorb by being around different ideas and whatnot, and not having a million yes men around them. I think that's probably the worst thing that you could ever do is have a million yes men around you that agree with you or are too afraid to speak up about, you know, business decisions or, you know, whether this is the right thing to post or just life moves in general. And I think the most successful people have the real true friends or real interesting occupations or different perspectives. They keep them grounded. Yeah.
Very well said, man. I always find it's, you know, when I'm looking at my company, I don't want to be the smartest one. I want to be the best at what I'm doing, but I want a whole team. And this goes to my production company, to Val. Like, I've learned so much from her. Like, she took my show from being a show into an actual brand. And those are the types of people that you need around that are going to lovingly beat you up until you change. And that, I mean, to me, like that, you have to take pride and throw it out the window and just understand that you have to have a group of individuals around that have a different skill than you, And if you can do that and be open-minded with it and not closed off, then there's no telling what you can create. I mean, we've had a massive swing since March. Massive. I mean, not knocking local people, but pretty much my show was just, a reality star here and there. And then some local people that have done well, some people that have got through a struggle, maybe being incarcerated and now out there doing big things too. The platform and the types of guests we have now is all because of I surrounded myself with people that were smarter than me.
That is probably, I think that final statement you said too is something that I've heard echoed by so many people that I interview at the highest level. It's kind of like a common phrase that they repeat, and it's very, very true. They say, yeah, like I'm bad at a lot of different things and I'm really good at some specific things. And having the best of the best where because you don't have the time or resources to stretch yourself in ways that, don't make sense. It just makes it just makes sense having people around you that are better than you at different things, because there's only so many of you that can be out there, especially running a business. So yeah, I think to relay that, I've heard only the people at the top level say that. And it's just very true. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, like I said, I told my team and I told my wife as this thing was growing, I just want to be the dude on the mic conducting the interviews. I want people around me that can help me, not just to be there, but to really help me, because we have a big mission for the show. It's not just to shoot podcasts and have great conversations. It's to unify the world, man. I want everybody to understand that this platform, this show is for everybody. It is to unify America right now and to find voices and to understand that we have way more similarities than we do differences. And we're too focused right now on the things that drive us apart instead of the things that bring us together. That's the mission of the show. That's our goal. Yeah. Thank you, man. Look, dude, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm sure you and I will continue to go back and forth. I would love to. And hopefully we can do something in person together sometime soon. If you're ever out here, let me know. When I'm heading out there, I'll definitely let you know. And man, I just really value your time. And thank you for sharing everything with the audience.
Well, thanks for having me. It's brought the fresh air today. Great way to start my day. So yeah, I really appreciate it. And I really enjoyed talking to you. It's been great.
Hey, right back at you, man. And for the audience, if you are a creator or you have friends that are creators, or this just interests you in some way, share the show with somebody that you know, love, and trust. And always go check out It's Daniel Mack on Instagram, YouTube. Follow him. He has created something so special, to the very beginnings of getting yelled at and almost getting arrested in a mall, to walking up to people's cars and people going, "Hey, aren't you Daniel Mack?" That is true success. That is determination at its finest. So thank you guys for watching and listening. Until next time, stay determined.
Rinse takes your laundry and hand delivers it to your door, expertly cleaned and folded, so you could take the time once spent folding and sorting and waiting to finally pursue a whole new version of you. Like Tea Time You. Or this Tea Time You. Or even this Tea Time You.
Said you hear about Dave?
Or even Tea Time You.
So update on Dave.
It's up to you. We'll take the laundry. Rinse. It's time to be great.